patchwork creates a risk of uncoordinated efforts, gaps in services, and challenges in determining reach and impact.
But state lawmakers are working to change that. Denver 7's Colette Bordelon explains what could become the Office of School Safety.
Even though school safety is one of the biggest conversations in Colorado,
I don't think people really know about this bill.
A bill moving through the state legislature has largely flown under the radar.
It's about having safe schools. That means we have safe kids, right?
An audit from 2019 found Colorado programs to promote school safety are not centralized or required to work together. Senate Bill 241, if passed, would create the Office of School Safety within the State Department of Public Safety.
Consolidate all of those resources and ideas under one roof.
The bipartisan bill would do a number of things, including creating a crisis response unit to help schools when responding to emergencies, and administering a new youth violence prevention grant program, which can give schools, community organizations, and local governments up to $100,000.
Not all school districts have grant writers who are parts of their staff. So something that this bill recognizes is that smaller school districts are going to need support.
The legislation also says eligible entities can use money from the School Security Disbursement Program for school resource officers and co-responder programs.
And as Republicans, that's what we're aiming for, is really how do we make our schools safer so that teachers get to teach, kids get to learn, and then we have school resource officers who stop the bad guys.
Is there an ideological difference between the two parties when it comes to school safety?
I don't think so. I'm going to say I, too, as a Democrat, really value the school resource officer. In addition to the school resource officer idea, we need co-responders. We need grants to try to make our school buildings more safe. We need mental health interventions. So it won't be one program, it's going to be many.
Sponsors say the goal of the bill is to put state resources behind solutions.
That's what we're aiming for here, is to actually get something done.
Democrats and Republicans came together. We all saw this as an important piece of the school safety, public safety conversation.
The bill would give the Department of Public Safety just over $26 million for the new office. It just went through the House. It was amended there. Now it heads back to the Senate. In the newsroom, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
3 people remain in critical condition this hour following a deadly shooting at a Louisville, Kentucky bank. Police say the 25-year-old gunman killed 5 people and injured 8 others while live streaming the whole thing on Instagram. Officials say the shooter was a bank employee who was recently notified he was going to be fired. Well, he was shot and killed by police ultimately. And among those in critical condition tonight, Louisville police officer Nicholas Wilt, who was sworn in less than 2 weeks ago.
A shooting involving Denver police and a suspect in a Jefferson County park is now under investigation. DPD says the person had a felony warrant and was possibly involved in another violent crime. When officers tried to stop the suspect, it led to a chase into Clement Park, which led them to shooting that suspect, who was then taken to the hospital and is expected to be okay. And no officers were hurt.
Well, the bodies of a missing Denver band member and his son were recovered over the weekend after the two went kayaking in a lake in Arkansas. On March 16th, Chuck Morris and his son Charlie were reported missing. And according to a GoFundMe set up to support that family, weather and other elements on the lake created the perfect storm that made it unsurvivable. Well, Chuck was an electronic acoustic percussionist for the band Lotus. Lotus plans to hold several benefit concerts for them. 2 of the concerts are in Denver, April 21st and 22nd at the Fillmore Auditorium.
Denver 7 is following up on a disturbing allegation of child abuse at an Aurora daycare. Since our story aired, we have confirmed A+ Learning Center did report the incident to the Colorado Department of Early Childhood.
Well, Early Childhood tells us at this time, this is a quote, law enforcement will not be investigating, but they say the county has accepted this for investigation.
And Denver 7's Jessica Porter asked the Division of Child Welfare where the investigation goes from here and what parents can do to report abuse.
I do want to see the lady put in jail, honestly. I don't want her working with another school or anything, another student, anything.
Ajaneer David is reeling from the shock that an employee at A+ Learning Center in Aurora allegedly attacked her 5-year-old daughter on April 6th.
Just grabbed her by her arms and was slamming her into the concrete wall over and over.
Another staff member alerted David to the abuse after trying to intervene.
She walked up to her and tried to grab my daughter from her, and she said no, she's not going anywhere because she's not listening, and then smacked her in her mouth.
David got the daycare to document the incident in this letter. She has been told the employee was fired, but she wants their license revoked.
She did have a bruise on her back. Her lip was busted in the middle.
Denver 7 learned despite A+ Learning Center having the highest rating by the state, it also has had 4 investigations into child abuse and neglect since 2021. Yolanda Arredondo, the deputy director of the Colorado Division of Child Welfare, told me parents can report abuse by calling the 24-hour state hotline 1-844-CO for kids.
They don't have to gather any additional information when they call. They can just call because they have a concern. For example, last year in 2022, we took over 191,000 calls on our hotline.
A county Department of Human Services will ultimately determine if the incident needs to be assigned a caseworker.
It is very common for local law enforcement and county departments of human services across the state to work together when they are assessing or investigating an allegation of child abuse or neglect. If there is an immediate safety concern, then a caseworker and a casework supervisor are making a decision about how best to intervene in that situation to prevent future maltreatment.
The entire assessment process can take up to 60 days, and DHS will want to have face-to-face contact with the victim within 5 business days of the incident. The Colorado Division of Child Welfare told me that law enforcement will ultimately determine if any charges or arrest needs to be made. Reporting live in the studio, I'm Jessica Porter, Denver 7.